Greetings, folks. Welcome. Good evening. Hope you're all doing fine and dandy. And welcome to the very first session of Rynn's Rewrites. Thank you. I thought it had a nice ring to it, too. Who doesn't love a bit of alliteration, you know? For starters, I'm going to go ahead and pin this. So this is a shared Google Doc for anybody who wants to partake or join in. And for those of you who are just joining us or maybe don't know what's going on, this is basically just sort of like a little experiment exercise in creative writing. I'm going to keep the music going just so we have some vibes. Based on a Brat TV series that we watched this week. We're going to see if we can't rework the premise, rework the story a little bit, and come up with something better, because we had some great ideas going yesterday. Are we gaying up Brat TV? You know it. You know it. Does anybody remember what Lawrence's last name was? It's wild how he was never. I'm still like processing season 3. I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, man, it's crazy how like we never saw or mentioned Lawrence again. Like DuPont, you're right. It was DuPont. Yeah, we never revisited Lawrence DuPont's situation like ever again. It was so weird. And we didn't even mention like the apparently her Kathy's brother is like became the Roaches, but like we didn't even know that until the very end of the series because they were never mentioned again during the series. And also, isn't it fucking wild that like Junior, the people that we know that Junior and Kathy ultimately end up with were just they were just put randomly with the people that we know that they end up with at the very end of the series. Like, that was weird, right? Like, we know that Kathy marries Alan, but they didn't share any scenes together until the very, well, they shared like a couple scenes in the first season, and then didn't so much as speak to each other from like the first season to the very end of the last season. And Junior just meets Nellie's mom. He just meets her. There's no setup. There's no, like, he just meets her. None of the people he was dating or hanging out with during the course of the show are Nellie's mom. It was just some random girl he meets at the end. Like, why? I mean, if they had made Kathy his wife now, that would have been crazy. To see Kathy's story and then realize that she was Nellie's mom, that would have been wild. Why did they even try to force Alan and Joe and Alan and Alice when that could have been time set to set up Alan and Kathy? Exactly. Yeah, no, it is, and honestly, it has similarities to Game of Thrones in that, like, it's like there were people, they had an idea of where they needed the story to go, but they didn't actually, like, think through how they were going to get there. I feel like that's probably giving them too much credit. I don't feel like they put any thought into it at all. Because, I mean, this is fiction. This is a TV show. Like, it doesn't need to be... Yes, in real life, sometimes you just randomly end up with somebody. But, like, what's the point of trying to get us invested in this teen romance drama if we already know who they do and don't end up with? I just feel like it just wasn't thought through. That's the first I'm hearing of that. Gwen Stacy being trans? That's definitely not something that was explicitly in the movie. Hang on. Sorry, I got distracted. Hang on. What happened? They put a trans flag in her room. That's where it comes from. Oh, okay. Um, especially after they started working together in the contrived fight with Joe. Yes. It's subtext plus fandom getting excited over everything. People saw the protects trans kid flag in Gwen's room, and I think she may be trans, but I don't think it's good. Yeah, it's definitely not confirmed. I mean, she might be. I wouldn't be surprised. Honest, I wouldn't be surprised if she was non-binary. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all, actually. I didn't read like trans mask from her, but I mean, she could be. But I think that like I wouldn't be surprised if she was like on the under the trans umbrella, but it wasn't anything explicit. Anyway, yeah, the yeah, sometimes people, I mean, I get that people get excited. Sometimes people get so into the fanon ideas that it becomes like a cardinal sin to not agree with like a fan idea. People just decide that fanon is canon sometimes, and it's like, I don't know, it's tough to like balance, because it's like, obviously you don't want to be a dick or be like, you know, you want people like trans people and other marginalized groups to see themselves and stuff like that, but it should also be okay to like have a different headcanon if something isn't confirmed. Or to see things differently without it being like, oh, I'm like transphobic or against this character being trans. You know, if you don't happen to read that character the same way, I don't feel like that's like a problem. It reminds me of like the fan wars in Tumblr. Anyway, but yeah, like all of the stuff where like I don't even know why they were trying to do like the Alan and Alice thing. We know Alan and Alice don't end up together, and they like they never had any chemistry, and them being together in the first place never even made any sense. So yep, I agree. Sometimes they will just straight up act like, oh yeah, this is canon, when it's all just really enthusiastic fanon. It also reminds me of, not, this isn't really a queer thing, but even in like fucking Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, people are so dedicated to fanon in Harry Potter, they straight up just will pretend stuff is canon when it isn't. I will never forget the time I had a whole bunch of white girls in my comments arguing with me about Draco Malfoy and how he was the victim of abuse. And like, they could not point to any specific example in the book. They were 100% talking about fanon and how in the fanon stories, and I'm just like, bruh, like none of that shit was canon. I wouldn't mind if they just revealed Gwen to be trans femme the whole time, or if she turned out to be masked or non-binary. It's all fine with me. Yeah, same. I mean, look, nobody with that little undercut side cut thing she had going on is 100% straight and cis. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it. Gwen is definitely either non-binary or queer or both, but definitely not neither. In my head, she is a she-they, a bisexual she-they. After watching the whole season, not only was the Alan and Alice plotline a waste of time, but it was almost frustrating, because it was like, remember that stuff about like when they like revealed, they were like the big mystery of the summer, when they found that like they set up that thing with the Crown Lake box that went nowhere. I felt completely like wasted, like my time was completely wasted by that shit, because that went nowhere. We learned nothing interesting about that. I really thought they were gonna be like, oh, maybe he's actually Joe or Junior's dad, but no, it was just like, it was like we know like Principal Hurley liked Joe's mom. We knew that already. And even the missing crown didn't mean anything, because it turns out he had the whole time. Like, he was like, oh, the crown is missing or whatever. And then the crown was just in the box. And he was like, she was like, oh, I guess he had it the whole time. What was the point of that? What was the point of any of that? What was the point? like we went nowhere. Nothing happened. What the fuck? just got retold everything we learned in the first season. Yep. The whole tiara thing was so unnecessary, and also the grandpa reveal was so unnecessary. Jo finding out her grandpa was this random man did nothing. Very Rise of Skywalker. I'm a guy named Joe and you're a girl named Joe. First, let's organize these by like family. Otherwise, we're gonna be like all over the goddamn place. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, like her grandfather being some random guy is so irrelevant, and I don't even understand why he wasn't previously in her life. Did he just disappear after his daughter died? Like, what the fuck? What was even the point of introducing that old lady? That was just like a misdirect. Like, oh, no, this old lady's just some totally irrelevant bitch. Like, what was the point? Let's see. What was Kathy's brother's name? Her little brother was... Ray. Also, I love how Ray disappeared after the first season. Also, another thing, he got shot and left this show. Yeah, Ray was the frail child, the child of the weak constitution. Also, there was also another question that I had, which I think is interesting, is like, I mean, I get that people sometimes die, you know, like some people die before they're like 80 or whatever like that, but like, why did Kathy die? And she seemed like some frail old woman, but she's the same age and in fact a little younger than Nellie's dad, who still seems like a relatively sprightly 60-year-old man. What's that about? Like, like Junior is still like running a business and he seems like just like a pretty, like someone who is like in his mid-60s. He doesn't seem that old. But meanwhile, Kathy is like an old lady whose husband is already dead and she's like dying, presumably of old age. But it's just like, she was born in, what, the 5th? She's my mom's age. Like, if Kathy was 14 in 1964, I mean, she was born in 1950, which means she was like 4 years older than my mom. Like, she's not that old. Like, oh, like, I just don't understand. They were acting like she was 80 or something, but she really wouldn't have been that old. She would have been like in her 60s, 70s at the oldest. The ages don't really make sense for the 60s or the 90s. Yeah, and like she was at least a year or two younger than Junior. So how is Junior not look nearly as fucking old as she did? Like, I guess maybe she did also have a weak constitution or some shit. Because like, it just doesn't make any sense how she's so much, like she would have been the same age and younger than Junior. And then we don't even know where Joe is. Is Joe dead? They just kind of never, it was so weird. It just ended with Joe being like, you know, Kathy was like, yeah, Joe and I just kind of lost touch. Which, like, okay, yeah, that happens. You lose touch with childhood friends. But, like, I don't know. What was the point of any of that? And I also like how in the montage when they're like, I'll never forget my friends. And she included the black kids in that. I'm like, I guarantee that neither her nor Joe ever spoke to Abby ever again. And Abby, if she remembers them at all, is like, yeah, there were these crazy white bitches I used to go to school with. like, like there's no way that that they stayed in touch with Abby in any capacity. What happened with Dwight? Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm amazed that they had the restraint not to be like, and it turns out that Dwight or Abby was actually Luna's grandparents or some garbage like that. I fully thought they were gonna do some shit like that. I was fully prepared for them to be like, and actually, this is Luna's granddad. Oh yeah, he got married to the girl at the country club. I do remember that. Yeah, when they revealed that he got married to the girl at the country club, I thought the next line was gonna be, and their grandkid was Luna. I fully thought they were gonna go there. Fully, 100% thought they were gonna go there. Well, he married the other black girl at the country club. That was just like a worker. He not somebody who actually went to the country that country club. Oh my god! Oh, it's all coming back to me. Yeah, that fucking country club scene where they all like dance racism away was wacky. Yeah, and then how do we find out that Bobby was right? And I also can't believe that fucking Lawrence DuPont was the old man who flirted with Charlie D'Amelio in Attaway General Season 1. I'm gonna start puking. I can't believe that that happened. Hughes, that's what it was, Hughes. It's like, yeah, this is that guy that like gave Charlie D'Amelio some life or sorry, Dixie D'Amelio some life advice and then died. Like maybe in the rewrite she's like a local kooky old lady who lives with her roommate of 40 years. Yeah, I mean I'm a little disappointed that they never really did anything with Joe. The last time I remember Joe being mentioned was when they said, "Oh, Nellie's kid's name is Joe, and he's named after her aunt Joe." But I think that's the last time we ever heard Joe mentioned. What if Joe had been brought into the Crown Lake storyline? That could have been really interesting. Like maybe she knows secrets about Crown Lake. Maybe she has a connection to Heather. So much potential. Not only does my mail's here. So like lately I've been getting some weird shit happening with my DoorDash. I order from DoorDash all the time. But like the other day, I think I told y'all, the other day I ordered something and I got what I ordered, but then I also got like an ant infested burger that I didn't order. Like I didn't order it with ants, but I didn't order it at all. And then today, no, and yesterday, so there was just randomly Chipotle dropped off at my door that I didn't order at all. I didn't even order anything. And then today, they gave us two pizzas. I ordered one, but not the other. So, weird. An entirely different one. It was like a supreme pizza with like onions and peppers and shit on it. Who I never would have ordered that because I hate vegetables on my pizza. Maybe. Or some confused DoorDash drivers. I could be wrong, but I feel like Joe never came back to Attaway after season 3 finale, since Kathy said she sent her letters, but never about how she actually met her again. And how Nellie phrased how she named her son after Joe. She said, "I named her after your sister." And I feel like if they met or were close, she would have said after Aunt Joe. No, I think you're probably right about that. I feel like Crown Lake is another show that really lost the plot after the first season. Anyway, I agree with the conclusion that Joe probably never made it back to Attaway. which to me only strengthens. I still feel like Jo is definitely a lesbian, right? Because like she didn't end up with the boy, and then she was really never seen again, and there's never any mention of her being married or having kids or anything. So I think she was a confirmed bachelorette for the rest of her life. Mm. If you have a Blue Moon pizza near you, I'm addicted to this combo. It's a pizza with pepperoni, candied cayenne bacon, and melted blue cheese crumbles. And we never see Bobby like get married anyway. I know that he's supposed to have Rhyme as a grandkid, but like I don't know. Maybe he got a beard at some point. Cause that man was so heavily gay coded. Like, not only the way he dressed and acted, but the way that he wasn't married in his like 40s, which was like unheard of in that time, and the fact that he had a strained relationship with his father that was never really explained why it was strained. Like, come on. Also, the way that Joe's father wouldn't let him take care of the kid felt like a homophobic response. I would agree. I completely agree. Why did you send those pictures to that old lady's address? I don't think we did. Because isn't that the whole reason she thought the old lady was her grandmother? What was that about? Let's see. Yeah, it definitely seemed like Bobby and him didn't get along for whatever reason. I think there's some confusion as to which Wes Armstrong we're talking about here. He was in Jane the Virgin. And a bunch of other stuff I've never heard of. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yep, exactly. The diner was like entirely under Thomas's control instead of Bobby's, which was weird. A virgin named Jane. Jesus. Oh my god! Terrell Ransom, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, yep, he was the voice of Darwin in Amazing World of Gumball until his voice changed. I knew I recognized that name. The same Darwin that people keep trying to argue isn't obviously black coded, even though every single person who's voiced him was a little black boy. Yeah, I completely thought that like the whole cafe thing, the Attaway Cafe, I thought that that was gonna become Junior's somehow. Although I think that Junior's is in Millwood now that I think about it, but I thought that that's how that was gonna end up, or we were gonna somehow figure out how like Junior ended up owning the cafe. I thought it was gonna be the old Attaway Cafe, but then the old Attaway Cafe ended up becoming the arcade, which only matters to like the plot of the second season of Chicken Girls, I think. It's just so random. It's like yes, older Tiffany being played by her aunt was fucking crazy. Fucking Harold. Chicken Girls plot. But you know, with all of that, I'm surprised they didn't go out of their way to make Jo somehow an ancestor of Rhyme. Because she's so obviously the same actress. And they even have Junior comment on how she looks kind of like somebody else. So I figured if they're going to go to all those troubles to bend and twist a girl named Jo to fit into the contrived plot of Chicken Girls, that they were going to make Jo Rhyme's ancestor somehow. Because everything else is so incredibly contrived to fit into the Chicken Girls timeline. Yeah, I guess they're distant cousins. Because, like, it's Rhyme's uncle's granddaughter. So they are related. But way more distantly than I would think. Maybe. Could be. Because that means that Rhyme and, well, that means Rhyme and Junior are also related, right? Because when Junior remarks on him looking like somebody he knows, Rhyme is related to Junior. Distantly, but still. Well, lesbians and mysterious deaths, basically. So, PC, that's an interesting question that you've asked here. It's a question that in season 1 would have been fairly simple to answer, but by season 3 we lost the plot pretty intensely. It started out as a story of kind of a Twin Peaks-ish story about a town with a mysterious secret, a fire that kills somebody's mother, and the mysteries that lead up to discovering who started the fire and how and why. But eventually, it becomes a convoluted fucking mess of civil rights era policy and a very weird sanitized view of the civil rights movement. And there's like trips to New York, and there's arcades, there's diners that turn into arcades, there's racist, there's just a bunch of very crazy stuff that barely connects to each other. There's a bunch of characters that you shouldn't care about, but they suddenly are given major plot lines. There's a lot. But it also brings up the point that how did Bobby get so estranged from the family to the point where Junior doesn't know that Rhyme is connected to his uncle? That's a good question. Yeah, that is a good question, because it's like you'd think he would know that his uncle had a grandkid, right? But maybe Bobby finally said fuck it and decided to move in with his committed partner, and so the family got weird about it and they stopped talking to him. Yep, I can see that happening. It's crazy how that ended. It's crazy how Thomas Chambers' story ended. It's like after all that, it was like, and then Thomas, baby who wasn't really his baby, got kidnapped, and he was so grief stricken that he died of a heart attack at the end. Also, how did Joe's mom go to Attaway? I mean, go to Crown Lake? Was she like a scholarship kid or something? Because they never really addressed that. Or was it that she was like a maid at Crown Lake or something like that? And then Hurley fell in love with her? Hurley didn't really seem the right age either. Yeah, I don't even know why Crown Lake was relevant. They brought up Crown Lake, but like, what did it have to do with anything? We established that like Joe's mom was like a waitress or something at Crown Lake, and she fell in love with Hurley, but then he ended up marrying. She ended up marrying Thomas, and then he went to war, and then she had an affair with Hurley, and then Hurley's wife tried to murder her and accidentally started the fire. Like, the more I'm even just writing down these characters and stuff, the more I'm just completely confused. Because I'm like, what the fuck? Where are we going with this? I'm surprised they resisted making Kathy, Cho, Abby, Alice, and Dana into the original Chicken Girls. Chicken Girls original sin. Oh my god. Okay, let's see. Let's start thinking about how we want this plot to be laid out. The link should be in the chats if you join. So I'm thinking, what should the basic premise be? Should it still center around Kathy and Joe's friendship? I think it should, but we want to change the direction of where it goes, like significantly. Because the show itself forgot that it was about Kathy and Joe's friendship by the end of it. Like, by the end of it, the theme song felt like it was from a completely different show because it was just like, what? None of this has anything to do with where we're at now. I agree. I think their friendship should be a much slower build because they kind of just became friends immediately, and that's weird. Okay. So Kathy Fitzroy. Oh, stick around, JJ. We'll fill you in. I think it should really delve into Kathy finding Joe's rebellious, nonconforming nature fascinating and intriguing. I agree. Exactly. It's like they hinted at it, but they didn't really go full force with it. Where it's like, I get the vibe that Kathy finds Joe interesting because Joe refuses to like play by the rules and the expectations, whereas Kathy has always lived her life doing that. But I don't feel like Kathy should just, at the drop of a dime, go from being this demure, proper, rich lady to like suddenly breaking all the rules and defying her parents and stuff. Because realistically, she wouldn't do that. Like, she wouldn't go immediately from one thing to the other. It would be a gradual change. Like, I'm still mad that they never went more, they never went harder into Joe cross dressing and trying to do things that boys did. That time where she, like, dressed like a boy and tried to sneak into shop class was really interesting, and then we just kind of never did anything with that ever again. According to the constraints and expectations of her gender and social status. Yeah, I agree. Alan and Joe's friendship, rather than being built on this awkward, like, because remember, Alan and Joe first meet each other at the shop class where Joe sneaks in. And Alan kind of looks at her and realizes that she's a girl, and he's like, huh, that's interesting. And that could have been so interesting if instead of making it like, huh, I'm romantically interested in this girl, it was more like, huh, this girl is like breaking the rules of gender norms. And I've always kind of wanted, like, maybe Alan would prefer to do home ec. Maybe Alan really likes to cook or bake or whatever, but he feels like he can't do that because he's a boy. And then he sees Joe breaking the rules and he's like, huh. And it makes him think about that kind of stuff. No, we really don't understand why Joe became friends with Kathy. Sure am. Like, she just is friends with Kathy, even though Kathy's friends are like really cruel to her for no fucking reason. So I'm gonna actually start by like breaking down these characters and kind of rewriting what their vibe should be. I don't know why it's spelled Cappy like that. Or maybe we see, because we had a little bit of this where we see Joe kind of standing up for Kathy, um, and maybe that's what intrigues Kathy about Joe. But maybe like we see have Joe say something like, why do you let them treat you like that, or something like that. And Kathy has never previously considered that she had any other option, and maybe like so then yeah, maybe it gets to a point where like Kathy ends up doing something unexpected that makes Joe kind of into her, or at least intrigued by her. Disagree. Let's see. So I'm gonna start by the characters here. So let's see. When will my reflection show? Tell you what. Somebody start writing Bobby's biography. I'm gonna start with Joe. Collaborative process. Let's see. Good question. Presumably, wherever their mom came from, so like the Crown Lake area. But I'm actually not even 100% sure where Crown Lake is. But I know it's like a distance from Attaway. Well, that's the point. Yeah, the diner was in Attaway. So how did their mom even end up in Crown Lake? I'm still unclear about that. Her refusal to conform to if Brat TV won't fix their lore, we'll just have to do it for them. Oh my god, I cannot spell. Her and after Joe meets a girl. She meets. Frances. Her name is Frances Atkins. See. Hello, Acoustic. In the middle of a writing session. I think I got something going here. Let's see. Hey, the youngish. So we are revisiting the story of a Brat TV series that we watched over the weekend and tweaking it with some rewrites. We decided to we had the idea to kind of do like a group rewrite exercise with the story. So that's what we're into right now. Maybe we can finally fill up Brat TV's AO3 tags. I like the vision. Also, how did Kathy's mother and Joe's mother become friends? To the point that Kathy was willing to or that Kathy's mother was willing to go to some major lengths to like protect Joe's mother's affair and her secrets and paid off Alvarez to like take the blame for the fire and shit. Like when and where and how did they become friends? Because like presumably Kathy's mother was also like a wealthy, important person. Was she poor? How did she end up marrying Kathy's dad then? Because I can't imagine Kathy's dad not marrying a wealthy, important person or a girl from a wealthy, important family. Well, yeah, Joe's mom was poor, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Why was Mrs. Fitzroy friends with her? We know that the rubber factory was owned by the Fitzroy family. Maybe her dad fell in love with her mom there or something? It just, they didn't really strike me as the marry for love type, They struck me as a marry the rich girl because it's good for your social status type. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying, Acoustic. Yeah, like, I'm just so confused because it's like her mom was not just friends with her, but apparently close enough friends that she was willing to, like, do some very fucked up stuff to keep her secret. And it's just like, how did they become friends? Why would they have been friends? It doesn't make any sense. There's also a strong implication that Kathy's mom is an alcoholic and probably also a drug addict, like addicted to barbiturates or something, like one of those housewife drugs from the 60s. But they don't really delve into that much. We see her face hardship by like drinking, and I'm pretty sure we see her take pills at least once. But like, again, that's something they could have really done something with, but they really didn't. No, it definitely didn't handle addiction well. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that the show's biggest issue is that, like, a lot of the stuff it just didn't matter. Nothing really mattered. Like, there was nothing really status quo changing about the show. I mean, I get that it's a prequel, so it's hard for, like, shows that happen before other stuff that we know happens to matter that much, but you can still do it. I just feel like with this show, it's like, why does any of this end up mattering? Nothing matters. Joe doesn't end up being an important character in the canon. Kathy becomes, like, the ancestor of important characters in the canon, but, like, nothing that she went through in the series matters. Okay, so here's what I got so far for Joe and Kathy. And then I'm gonna check out what you've written for Bobby here. So Joe Chambers is a stubborn tomboyish girl from Attaway who enjoys reading, building things, and driving people crazy with a refusal to conform to gender norms. She's always felt somewhat trapped in her small town with its conservative values and patriarchal expectations. She's also never been interested in boys like the other girls her age. Her mother named her after Jo March from Little Women, and she's always admired that free-spirited nature and lack of desire to be ladylike. Her mother died in a tragic fire in her at the town rubber factory, and her father was never the same afterwards, so he mostly focused on running the family diner and emotionally neglecting her and her older brother Junior. Eventually, she meets Kathy Fitzroy, a spoiled rich girl who she never paid much attention to until seeing her briefly abandon her propriety and slap Lawrence DuPont when she caught him kissing her best friend Alice. This display of uncouth behavior embarrasses Kathy but amuses Joe, and the two become friends. Joe experiences feelings with Kathy that she never had with boys and begins to ask some big questions about herself with the guidance of the only adult who seems to understand her, her Uncle Bobby. Exactly. The only thing that it, like, connects to, like, the chicken girl shit is the arcade, and who gives a fuck about that? Like, truly, who fucking cares about the arcade? Whenever, like, we have to save the arcade, and I'm like, I couldn't give less of a shit if I tried. Anyway, Kathy Fitzroy. Kathy Fitzroy is a wealthy girl living in Attaway who's always lived her life according to the constraints and expectations of her gender and social status. Her father was an important businessman who cared only for increasing the wealth and status of the Fitzroy name. Her mother was a socialite who relied on barbiturates and alcohol to function most days. Kathy always felt her family was hiding something, but it was all about appearances with them. She never stepped out of line or questioned things until the day she broke up with Lawrence DuPont, the rich boy her parents wanted her courting, and that was the first day she talked to Joe Chambers, the spunky tomboy who never seemed to follow the rules. And for Bobby here, okay, we're still working on it, but I like what we got so far. We got a lot of information so far. The uncle of Joe and Junior Chambers, Bobby is a bachelor who has come to help with his family diner that is owned by Joe and Junior's dad, Tommy. Bobby and Joe seem to have a better understanding relationship than Joe ever had with her father. This is because Bobby, being a gay man, understands Joe's non-conforming personality to gender roles and patriarchal expectations to some extent. He always tries to give advice to Joe and support her in whatever challenges, whether they be societal, academic, and or personal, she may come across. He also feels that Joe is the only one he can confide in about his own struggles with his non-accepting father and his struggles with his brother-in-law. Bobby sees a lot of his sister Frances in Joe and wants to make sure he gives Joe the support and love that Frances gave him when they were kids. Despite him having a much more deep connection with Joe, he also talks to his nephew Junior regularly and tries to help him not fall into the patriarchal expectations put on men and to teach Junior about not falling into the bad traits that Tommy and his father learned and practiced. Both Joe and Junior come to Bobby about their feelings with other kids rather than their father. In Joe's case, she's not having feelings for boys like she's supposed to, but instead having said feelings for girls, and in Junior's case, he has those feelings with both boys and girls and doesn't know what that means. Bobby encourages and gives advice to Joe, seeing as he has been through some similar circumstances, and assures her that she should never feel like something is wrong with her. He also helps Junior try to figure out his bisexuality. Yeah, Joe could have absolutely been an Uncle Bobby-like figure to Nellie. And then we could have actually made that story about more of that stupid Heather bullshit, or made the Heather bullshit actually matter. Loving this story for Bobby, by the way, so far. Already, we have made these characters so much deeper. So I just wanted to send this document to Brat TV. Okay. We've taken the liberty of rewriting this show for you. Oh yeah, the Heather stuff could absolutely be interesting if it actually, like, I was so pissed by the third season of Crown Lake when not only did they tease us with the gay shit where they queer baited us, but they literally let us, like, see the outline of Heather but then let her still run away. That shit pissed me off so much. Like, I feel like you're mocking me right now. Like, oh, we almost got Heather, but then one of the characters fucking tripped or some shit, and then she ran away. Like, are you kidding me? Stop! Heather could be a supernatural figure, but then why do we keep physically seeing somebody? We physically saw somebody in season 3, and she even had the cell phone and stuff. So it's like, if you're gonna make her supernatural, but we keep seeing a physical embodiment, and they still don't do anything with that. Hello, aka Elia. Season 3 was a huge downgrade for that show. Huge. New plot, new characters that I didn't give a fuck about. The way they handled like school bullying and stuff was laughable. I can't get over how that girl was getting bullied until she came out as gay, and then that stopped the bullying. Like, what? And then remember when that other girl was like tweaking when she came out, talking about, no, everyone's gonna find out that I'm gay because we were roommates or some shit. And she was like, made the other girl coming out about her? Like, what? God, they messed all of that up. Yep, I wish I was exaggerating. They literally did that shit. They like, they. Yeah, the bait kiss was so fucking enraging. How they almost kissed and it's like, oh, just kidding, fuck you. Yep. And also, that same person who tried to sexually assault Nelly in season 1 was totally cool with Chloe being gay. No issues whatsoever. Her rejecting him for a girl did not result in a hate crime. It resulted in him being like, yeah, that's cool. Be you. Be who you are for your pride. You know, if we rewrite Clown like we had to put in a Super Kid Academy reference. We could do that. also, I think they briefly say something about, I don't know. It seems like they briefly suggested that Joe's dad fought in Vietnam, but that doesn't make any sense. Timeline-wise, it's more likely he fought in World War II. Or possibly the Korean conflict. But it definitely wasn't Vietnam, because Vietnam hadn't even happened yet. Or it was just about to happen. So I guess it was probably World War II, but I feel like they explained it wrong at some point. I'm not sure. They said he fought in Korea. Okay, then it must be Korea. Well, I think he likes sports, because wasn't there a whole thing about him joining the team and Lawrence DuPont throwing a fit about it? So he likes sports. He seemed to be a pretty good student. He was into chemistry. So it seems like he's pretty studious. He's into basketball. Maybe also into baking. That's about all I can tell you. I also kind of liked the budding friendship that he seemed to be having with Junior, but then that never went anywhere. Once again, one of the threads that just never led anywhere, because it seemed like him and Junior were like starting to get along, and I was like, oh, that could be an interesting friendship, but then it just kind of stopped cold, and we never saw them interact together again. It's like every time they had like a solid friendship, they just destroyed it for no reason. Like Alan's friendship with Junior, gone. Junior's friendship with Dwight, gone. Joe's friendship with Abby, gone. Like what was like why did they just keep messing up? Not even just romantic pairings, but just like even friendships. It's like nobody was allowed to like be friends with each other for more than a season. It was weird. Like, I'm still annoyed with that weird conflict they gave Abby and Joe. Abby and Joe had no reason to keep secrets from each other and sneak around and be mad at each other. Like, what? Why? Like when like Abby refused to tell her about the protests and Joe refused to tell her about like dating that stupid boy in the like why would they not tell each other those things? Those are normal, or even her fears or concerns about her uncle or her grandmother. Those are things that Abby would have been a friend for her. Like they were friends. Why did they just stop talking to each other? Brad TV runs on contrived drama. Truly, it truly does. That's the thing. It's like, that's the biggest thing that Black TV needs better writers for, is learning how to create drama without just making two characters hate each other for no reason. Like, there were plenty of catalysts for, like, nuanced actual drama. Like, you could talk about how, like, Abby's struggles with the civil rights movement, and how Joe, like, you know, wants to be empathetic but also doesn't totally get it because she's a white girl. They did all that just for forcing Joe into a relationship with that nasty boy. That nasty boy that she didn't even stay with at the end. Like, not that I wanted her to, but like, what the fuck? You're gonna mess up her perfectly wholesome friendship with Abby to force her into this disgusting compat bullshit with this pointless fucking twink that we never see again? Like, what? Why would you do that? Like, that was gag-inducing. They had no chemistry. There was no reason for them to be together whatsoever. I didn't enjoy seeing them together in any way. I would have much preferred to see her and Abby exploring New York together, but apparently that's too much to ask. Like, what? Imagine Abby taking her down to, like, a jazz club or something. Taking her down to Harlem. Imagine that. That would have been so fucking cool if Abby, like, took her down to Harlem and she started, like, learning, like, what the Black community does in New York, and, like, maybe she even goes to, like, a ballroom or something, and, like, learns, like, about the queer community in New York. Not that I expect Brad TV to handle that with any kind of care, but, like, in a perfect world, imagine them exploring, like, ballroom culture in New York, or, like, you know, just the Harlem scene, the Harlem Renaissance areas, and, like, really indulging in that. That could be so cool. Especially because Joe also has a love for literature, right? Imagine them, like, going down and hanging out where, like, the artist of the time used to hang out, like, in Harlem. Imagine her getting to meet Langston Hughes or something. Like, Langston Hughes died in 1967, so they could have met. Wouldn't that have been cool? Like, Joe, who already has, like, an established interest in, like, language arts and poetry and stuff, getting to meet, like, Maya Angelou or Langston Hughes or something, that could be so cool. Exactly. It's like, it's so nonsensical for them to set it up so, like, nobody, not like a single student at their school, other than the bullies, has any problem with Black kids. There's like 3, you can count on one hand the kids who actually have a vocal problem with Black students, and everybody else is A-okay with it. Everybody's down to protest, everybody's down to, like, do the sit-in, everybody joins in to kneel or whatever the fuck. It's nonsense. Like, come on. And you could even have a character like Joe, who I believe probably wouldn't be maliciously racist, but probably would have some ignorant thoughts just because either her father probably taught her some stupid stuff, he probably taught her at least some like phobia against, like, Asian people at a minimum, or like, you know, assumptions about coloreds, you know, or making some comment like, well, I don't see what the big deal is, I'm poor too, and then Abby pointing out that, like, Black poor and white poor are 2 different things. Like, they could absolutely do something with that. Yeah, they never let Kathy develop. Oh my god, Kathy was driving me goddamn crazy. Kathy was driving me crazy with that shit where she was just like, she kept like confronting Dwight and being like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Why aren't you dancing with me? That, like, when she forced him to dance, I about lost my goddamn mind. The way that they framed that, to where they managed to simultaneously make the black women sound crazy and paranoid, right? Because the black woman is like kind of poking fun at Dwight for dating that white girl. And they're supposed to be like, oh, look at this jealous black bitch who doesn't like the white girl for no reason whatsoever. And it turns out those jealous black bitches were just, you know, totally out of line anyway, because it turns out there was nothing to worry about. Racism doesn't actually exist. And when Kathy forces Dwight to dance with her, instead of it ending with a race riot, it ends with everybody being like, oh yeah, I guess, who cares? Nobody has any problem with the black kids joining and dancing with us. Like, get fucking real. Like, they should have just given everything Kathy had with Dwight to just Kathy and Alan and stop that. Exactly. We didn't need Dwight to be romantically connected at all. God forbid they just be platonic friends. You know, much less the idea that Kathy continuously puts him in danger and ignores his very valid concerns for his own safety. Like, she kept insisting that they go to the diner together, even though he told her repeatedly that it was a bad idea. She kept insisting that he come to her house, even though he said that was a bad idea. And then her parents reacted in a very predictable way, and she still continued to insist on dragging him in places where him being seen with the white girl would put his life in immediate danger. like somebody said, like the way that Kathy's father could have opened fire on Dwight the minute that he caught him in his house with his daughter alone, and nobody would have said shit. No one would have convicted him. Nobody would have charged him. There would be zero consequences if he straight up killed that boy right then and there. Like, zero consequences. If there's one thing shows will do, it's make the black women and femme look irrational no matter what. Yeah, that just really pissed me off. Because, like, not only is this a laughably inaccurate portrayal of how things worked in this time period, but the way that they somehow also managed to make the black women look crazy for having a problem with Kathy. like, oh yeah, those black women are just paranoid about racism. Exactly. She needed something status quo breaking. Like, nothing changed. It seems like nothing really changed for Kathy. Nothing changed. She didn't have to move. She didn't have to stop her luxurious vacations. I know there's some characters make commentary about how her parents supposedly don't have as much money anymore, but like, we never see Kathy endure any consequences for that. We never see Kathy have to change her lifestyle in any way at all. Like, why not have her run off to New York with Joe? Why even introduce Abby? Especially if you're not going to do anything with Abby. I mean, I like Abby, but if you're not going to do anything with her, then cut her out and just make Joe and Kathy run off to New York together. And then have them experience, like, living on the streets or something in a completely different, like, lifestyle than they were used to back in Attaway, especially for Kathy. That could be a huge, like, growth moment for her. I'm trying to write Henry's story, but it's ridiculous because what even happened there? You're right! None of it makes sense! Henry's story is so fucking crazy. Like, what was that about? The only things we know about Henry are that he's kind of a sociopath. He tortured his little brother when he was a kid, so he got sent off to boarding school. And now he's an evil mobster. That's all we know about Henry. Like, 3 things. And Henry could have been the perfect narrative representation of everything wrong with her family and her breaking. Exactly. Yeah, Yeah, like Henry could have been a really compelling character, but instead they just made him like the devil incarnate for no reason. Like, they didn't do anything with that. Yeah, they didn't get him any psychiatric help. Because I'm sorry, but if a child is torturing their little sibling like that, like literally starving, they said that he left that baby, a baby who couldn't even walk, locked in a shed in the woods for multiple days. That kid could have died. They found him half starved and screaming for his sister. Like he undoubtedly left untold psychological torment on his brother for the rest of his life. That's probably why he's so weak. Because he was literally tormented, physically and emotionally tortured before he could even walk by his sadistic older brother. And it's just like, what the fuck is that? Like, the idea of rich families trying to hide dark, dirty secrets that their kids did, that makes sense, but they don't ever do anything with it. They don't ever do anything with it. And frankly, there's no way that Henry is the same person that Jimmy Roche was in the story. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. He starts a gang? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, we also don't talk about how much older is his teacher? Because presumably he was underage when she got pregnant. So isn't that like statutory rape? Like, what the fuck? It just, oh my God. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? Like, Henry's story is crazy. Like, I also really think that they should have made Frank Hurley the biological father of at least one of those kids. That could have really been interesting. He stole a lot of money and started a gang. Do you need money to start a gang? I don't know. And Alan's relationship to his dad really seemed interesting, but they never did anything with it. There seemed to be a genuine affection there, but Alan is also struggling to accept it because of all the horrors that have happened. Maybe Alan develops anxiety after all the horrible harassment his family has gotten, and his father becomes incredibly protective over him. I thought he was going to be Joe's real father. Yeah, I thought he was going to be either Joe or Junior's real father, or maybe even both, but because I don't know how far apart Joe and Junior are in age. cannot get over how fucking just off the goddamn rails the Roach story was. Like, what? What? What even does the wiki say? Let's see what the wiki says. Yeah, what was their plan? What was their plan? What was their plan? I don't get, what was their plan? So, he comes home from school after knocking her up. She gets a job as the principal, even though the idea of an unmarried pregnant woman getting a job as a school principal in 1963 is ludicrous. And then she seduces Joe's dad so that... What? Why did she seduce Joe's dad? To leave the baby with him? But she ends up taking the baby back. So why? Why did she seduce Joe's dad? Why was that necessary? How exactly did what's his face get the money? Henry. I don't even understand what business deal he was doing or how he got that money. I know part of it involved kidnapping the DuPont kid and beating him until he signed the contract. But why? They created a race war so that Lawrence could disappear. Like, did she know that Lawrence was gonna beat up the black kid? How could she have possibly known that? You know, like, how could she have possibly planned for Lawrence to beat up Dwight so that she could lie to him and tell him that he almost killed Dwight so that he would run away and seek help with Henry, and then Henry would kidnap him? Like, the more I say it out loud, the more insane it sounds. Like, what? What kind of a plan was that? Some semblance of mental illness being hereditary and Kathy having worries that she will end up like her brother, but nothing matters. Yep, or even like their mother. Maybe we find out that the mother drank while she was pregnant or something. Or like, you know, or maybe that the weird like emotional neglect of their parents led him to some sociopathic tendencies or something like that. They could really, I mean, because the idea of a rich white kid turning evil is not hard to imagine, but the way that the show wants us to get there is crazy. Like, yeah, and Lawrence became the sweet old man we saw in Attaway General. And also, the idea that, that Bobby and Francis's presumably homophobic, grouchy dad is surprisingly racially progressive. What was that about? When they, like, took a knee, and then he's the one who, like, stopped the cops from beating them up. And it's like, under what circumstances would an elderly man in 1964 do this? There's so much stuff that's just nonsensical. So this is Jimmy Roach, and he's the eldest son of Russell and Virginia Fitzroy. This actually pisses me off with how fucking crazy this is. Like, it's like, like, actually reading this out loud feels crazy. This feels so goddamn unhinged. Like, let's look at his story. story according to the Brat Wiki. Okay. Jimmy Roach, also known as Henry Fitzroy, is a character in the Brat universe. He's the eldest son of Russell Fitzroy and Virginia Fitzroy. Born under the name Henry to a wealthy Fitzroy family sometime in the 1940s, he was pampered and spoiled a great deal and appears to have been his parents' favorite child. However, he used to enjoy locking his younger siblings Catherine and Ray in places like basements. At one point, he took it too far and locked his younger brother Ray in an old abandoned shed for 3 days with no water or food, and Ray was terrified. After Ray was found, Henry was sent to a correctional school called Finley Academy to be taught a lesson. After that, he moved... I don't think it was a correctional school, though. I think it was just a boarding school. They didn't say anything about it being a correctional school. Let's see. I feel like something could have been interesting. After Francis and then Henry, Kathy deciding to finally be done with her family, she turns them in, and all the while Joel runs away to live in New York, and they meet at the train tracks. It's very romantically coded, and Kathy decides to leave with her to New York with Uncle Bobby accompanying them because they are kids. So maybe Abby is first met in season 3 in New York. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, they just said boarding school. And then so after that, Henry moved to Crown Lake Academy. And wouldn't it make more sense to send him to Crown Lake? Like, initially? Or he did go to Crown Lake at some point. And so after that, he went to Crown Lake Academy. While studying there, he began a romantic relationship with a very young teacher named Deborah Collins. I don't think that was at Crown Lake. I think that was still at Finley, wasn't it? Henry decided he wanted to get revenge on his family for sending him for ill treatment from the correctional school he attended. Again, where are we getting that from? Where are we getting that motivation from? That never came up in the story. So he left. God, this wiki is a mess. So he left to go to his family mansion, and his parents and sister gave him a warm welcome. However, he betrayed his family business and robbed both the DuPont and Fitzroy families' banks, stealing $200,000, and fled with Deborah, disgracing the Fitzroys. His new girlfriend was pretending to love Thomas Chambers Sr. so she could get pregnant with his baby. However, the baby she was pregnant with was actually Henry's. Yeah, no, she was already pregnant with that baby. She knew it wasn't Thomas's baby. What was that about? They left with vengeance, and who wrote this? And abandoned their baby, who was briefly adopted by Thomas Chambers. However, they decided to return to take their child back, and her name was Randy. Then Henry was that poor kid. Henry had then changed his name to Jimmy Roach. He loved his daughter very much and sent her to a good school called Crown Lake, okay? He and Deborah resided in Millwood from then on until Randy reached adulthood. Isn't Millwood where, like, the black people live? Adulthood. Jimmy then started a terrorist gang called the Roach Gang and moved back to Attaway. He is currently back in Attaway, only he is still up to his old tricks. It is unknown if he was aware of his younger sister's death. Presumably he stayed in a relationship with Debbie Collins. Oh my god, what the fuck? Oh, this is so completely unhinged. He shows up as Roman DuPont's grandfather in season 1 of Attaway General. I'm crying. Why did that happen? God, what the fuck? River Roach. Claire Fitzroy. Who are these people? Oh, okay. So this is oh my god. This is where dirt comes in. This is where dirt comes in. I guess it centers around the grandchild of Jimmy Roach. I'm gonna puke. Oh god. Oh god. Why is this happening? Claire Fitzroy. Who is she? She's best friends with Harmony, Layla, and Belle. And she's part of the Chicken Girls 2.0? Where does she come into play? So I guess she's in the Chicken Girls? And she's the granddaughter. Okay, and then... So here's Rhyme's family tree. God, I seriously want to put together a whole fucking family tree for these people. Hey Lily, welcome aboard. Yes, that other girl was the grandchild of no, she's the grandchild. I think she's the grandchild of Jimmy, maybe. But maybe she's the grandchild of Ray, I'm not sure. I wish I could tell you, Lily. I have no idea. Okay, so Rhyme's family is Harmony as her parents, Molly McAdams, and her father, Mr. McAdams, no first name given, her sister, Harmony McAdams. Her other family includes Joseph Patrick Atkins, her great-grandfather, Astrid Davidson, her cousin, Colleen, her aunt, Bobby Atkins, her grandfather. Oh, okay, so Joe, the original Joe, and then Bobby, her grandfather, then Joe, her first cousin once removed, who she looks exactly like, and Junior, her first cousin once removed, and Nellie, her second cousin, and Dana Roth, her first cousin once removed, and Celia Atkins, her great aunt. Celia Atkins. No information about her. Celia Atkins is her great aunt. Thomas Chambers is her great uncle. And Joseph Chambers is her second cousin once removed. Joseph Chambers? Oh, this kid. So Bruce is just the person that Nellie married. Frankly, I'm surprised that Bruce wasn't somebody previously established. This is just crazy. I want to see Junior's. I want to see fucking Junior Chambers' profile. Because I'm claiming Nellie and her mom is Jewish. Yeah, no, Dana Roth is a very Jewish name. That's a very Jewish name. Like, Junior Chambers has truly been through hell. Junior Chambers could write a book. Okay, so his opening is Thomas Junior Chambers is a character in the Brat universe. He was a star high school basketball player in Attaway High back in 1963. He worked at his father's diner, then started his own cafe many years later called Junior's. He is seen to be a particularly handsome lad. Okay. So here we go. Junior Chambers. Full name, Thomas Chambers Jr. Marital status, widowed. Date of birth, 1948. Place of birth, no information. Gender, male. Sexuality, straight. No, bisexual for sure. Age, 19 in 1965. 18 in 1964. 17 in 1963. Why did they write it like that? If he's born in 1948, his actual age should be like... Oh, hold up. $75. I hate that there's a sexuality section just so they can always straight everyone. Yeah, I don't even understand why sexuality is like an option. Is it just so that they can be like, yep, this character is definitely straight? Okay. So he's 75. It pisses me off that his age is like that. I want to fix this. This is wrong. Living status, alive. Species, human. Hair color, gray, currently. Brown, formerly. I would say it was more black than brown. Or very, very dark brown. Residence, Attaway. Occupation, cafe owner. Hobbies, no information. Education, Attaway High, graduated. Affiliations, juniors and Attaway basketball team, former. Parents, Thomas Chambers and Frances Chambers. Spouse, Dana Roth. Children, Nellie. Siblings, Joe. Other family includes Joseph Patrick Atkins, grandfather, Bobby Atkins' uncle, Molly McAdams' cousin, Colleen, cousin, Ryan McAdams' first cousin once removed, Harmony McAdams' first cousin once removed, Astrid Davidson first cousin once removed, Celia Atkins, ? Joseph Chambers' grandson. Friends include Alan Alvarez, deceased, Alice Hargrave. I would not say they were friends. Dwight Hughes, Kate Parker, Morgan Ray Fitzroy. Enemies include Randy Roach, Lawrence DuPont, implied, Portia, former business model. Romances include Dana Roth and Kathy Fitzroy, ex-girlfriend deceased. His first appearance was a girl named Joe? So that was before he showed up in any of the other shows? Well, that's interesting. So let's see. In 1963, he worked at the old Attaway Diner with his father, Thomas Chambers. He gets teased by the other kids at school as they aren't a wealthy family and the diner is their main source of income. That's all? Are you kidding me? Junior Chambers has been through so much. He only gets like a... What? What? Junior Chambers only gets like half a paragraph? Hell no, we gotta fix this immediately. We gotta fix this shit. This is an outrage. Wait, I can log in with Twitch? believe how the chicken girls, like, a whole lot of nothing happens with the chicken girls, and yet they get fucking paragraphs. But meanwhile, these characters where, like, way more stuff happens barely get a mention. All right, I hooked up my Twitch. Okay. Refresh. Look up Heather. Uh-oh. Hold up. Yes, it has. I did confirm the email. Yes, they did celebrate 100 years. What? Okay. Heather Masterson. Nobody knows the truth about Heather Masterson. She could be a real person or just a tradition at Crown Lake started by a student or a teacher. Heather could also be a fake name used to cover a person's identity. Heather gave away several hints in her notebook, such as her parents getting divorced. Whether this really happened to Heather's parents or is simply part of the scheme is unknown. Wow, that's super helpful and detailed. Let's see. Nellie first receives a book from Heather Masterson with her in her closet. The rite of passage that only the girls did and that never made any fucking sense. know, Heather taking a 30-year break and then trying to burn the school down again makes no sense. First, we're just gonna make a couple of grammatical tweaks. And we're gonna erase this fucking gag-inducing last sentence here. I just can't believe that there's nothing in his biography. I'm gonna scream. So what I think could have been done with the lore is that Crown Lake, Millwood, and Attaway are all connected magically. A perfect trifecta. Maybe the witches originate from all of them, and so do the curses. Heather is a manifestation of evil that maybe happened after students being bullied in the early days of Crown Lake, and now it could possess the students in the modern day. I don't think this is canon. This is just what I think it should have been. Yeah, I think that would work. He seems to be a handsome lad. The protagonist, honestly, the protagonist of season 3 of Crown Lake should have been Nellie's daughter. Or something like that. And then it should have been like Nellie, maybe Nellie went kind of crazy. Maybe keep the part where like Nellie gets blamed for burning the school down or whatever and goes kind of nuts and leaves in disgrace. But somehow like her daughter gets to go back to the school and she's like super determined to figure out what the fuck is going on at the school and who blamed her mom. Because then it would make way more sense for the protagonist to give a fuck about Nellie or proving her innocent. Like, they just had some random girl do it, and it's like, why would that girl care? Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yes, exactly. Season three's protagonist could have been Nellie's child. And maybe Nellie left this school in shame or whatever, but she had a kid. The kid was raised by Junior because Nellie was arrested or put in like an asylum or something. And so she wasn't fit to take care of her. And so now Junior sends his granddaughter to the school, and she's determined to figure out what happened to her mother because she is similar to Alan's motivation in the first season of A Girl Named Joe. Make it so Nellie's daughter is like at Crown Lake and she's like, my mom is innocent. Something else made her do this. She's always insisted about Heather. Like, she's always said she was innocent even when she like got arrested or whatever. And I believe she's innocent and I'm going to figure out what really happened. That could be so much more interesting. Yep. Whoa, what the fuck? What the hell? I don't remember the Unicode for this.
Nay.
Born shortly. Return from the Korean. No, I didn't make it. I'm just editing it because it was bad. It had like almost no information. And I will not stand by this injustice because Junior Chambers deserves to have his story told. And by golly, I'm going to be the one to tell it. I wonder if there's a page for the Attaway Fire. If not, there should be. There should be more event pages. Okay, somebody needs to make a page for the Attaway Fire, but... What year was the fire? I'm pretty sure they do say. That would be... That's so great. Kit personality. Annoying fucking pick-me bitch, basically. Let's see. even give a date for the fire? It's kind of crazy if they didn't, you know? Like, it just says date of birth 20s, age 20s. But if they gave a date of 1948 for Junior's birth, not quite sure where they got that, but if we're assuming that it's true, then... Wait a minute. We do have a birth date for Debbie Collins. Good work. 1953, you're right. Let's see. We literally see when Debbie was born. We saw her birth certificate at some point. I'm trying to remember when that was. Oh, this is season 1. I don't want that. On season 2. We're fixing everything Brad TV related. The lore, the wiki, the shows. Next will be in the writer's room. You know it. They sneak into the principal's office and they found her like license that had her birth date. I want to say it was 33. I think he was about 16 in season 1. The wiki says he was born in 48, which would make him, well, it would make him 15 in 63, I think, if I did that math right. So probably about 15. 15 or 16.
And now they'd lost her again to scandal.
I don't know.
And so
I don't care about any of that. I don't know if we trust the. I don't know if I trust the wiki. If the wiki is right about him being born in 48, then he can't have been 17. He could only be like 15 or 16. We know for a fact that the first season takes place in the summer of 60. Well, no. The first season takes place in the fall of 63, right? Or 60, maybe 62? When did JFK die? Because that happens in season 1, right? I think JFK died in the fall of 63. So if the first season takes place in 63 and he was born in 48, that makes him 15 in 63. I'm literally just trying to find that scene where they like break into her office or whatever. I can't remember if that was in the first or the second episode. But basically, I'm not even sure why. Like, this isn't so much about Junior. I'm just trying to figure out how old she was. I'm just trying to figure out how old she was because, like, it is. They keep saying she was the young teacher, but I don't think the math adds up. I don't think the math adds up on that at all. All right, well, I don't want to get sidetracked because I'm already fixing this, but the way they formatted age is also just very, very stupid, so I'm gonna fix it. Really need to get our comprehensive Charmers lore together because the wiki is totally empty on that front. Yeah, and the main thing we do know about Charmers is that all of the witches' friends' moms were friends, and they were also witches. Which still doesn't really make any sense because, like, why did they not know each other prior to then if that was the case? But for whatever reason, that is apparently true. I saw a daughter on the wiki. We probably will watch Chicken Girls again. But not at the moment. Let's see. Recently, Kathy first. In 19, gonna be specific, in 1964. Yeah, no, I don't think it's probably not a spoiler. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. It's just that's so weird. Okay, so he got married. Don't know exactly when, but sometime after college. Let's see. If it was when does Crown Lake season 1 take place? Isn't it like 95? I think it's 95. 94, okay. See, Crown Lake Academy, a fancy all-girls boarding school, except it's not an all-girls boarding school because apparently it's crawling with boys, and by the third season they don't even have separate classes. Okay, so let's see. So if she was 15, again, some quick maths. If Nellie was about 15 in 1994, then that means she was probably born around 79. I can't believe Tiffany married that quick. Seriously, what was that about? 79, yeah. So she was born around 79. So let's say that. Let's see. Oh my god. So Junior would have been about 32 in 1979. So let's say. Nope, Tiffany's brother never mattered, never came up again. So he had her kind of late. But let's say they were probably married in like the mid 80s, I guess. Or the mid 70s, I should say. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff just feels like they just put it in there because they just felt like it had to be there, even though it didn't really do the narrative any favors. I'm gonna say Nellie was probably about 11 when she died. Also, they showed that they really did, and also they showed Junior had the Roach card, like at the end of A Girl Named Joe, suggesting that he got involved with the Roach gang pretty young. So, like, what the fuck is that about? And also, how much time did Henry have to establish a successful gang? Didn't Henry just run away like the year before? And he's got business cards? Like, what the fuck? That Henry storyline really pisses me off the more I think about it, because it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. None of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. like, it's like they had to shove all of this stuff in there. Like, they couldn't fathom that stuff happened later in Junior's life. They were like, okay, he has to meet Jimmy Roach has to be in this show. It has to be Kathy's brother. He's got to start a gang, and then Junior has to get involved with the gang, all before he's like 17 years old. Oh, you're right. A Girl Named Joe came first, but I can only imagine that maybe they were storyboarding the story before then. That's actually more annoying when you think about it. Generally, it's nothing. It's not efficient. know why Jimmy paid for Nellie to go to Crown Lake. Crown Lake season 1 and A Girl Named Joe season 3 were airing simultaneously. Okay, so then they did know at that point who the Roaches were going to be. Why did they decide? Why do I feel like they decided at the last minute to make Jimmy Roach Kathy's brother? Why do I feel like that wasn't the original plan? And then they were like, oh, wouldn't that be interesting? And not one person took a moment to look at the fucking timeline and was like, wait a minute, that actually makes no sense. You know, like, oh my, now I'm imagining they put Jimmy Roach in there and they're like, oh, let's give Jimmy Roach a backstory. And then they were like, what if we just made Kathy's brother fucking evil and then he turned into Jimmy Roach? Because even though the show came before Crown Lake, season 3 didn't, and season 3 is when we found out all that Jimmy Roach shit. So I really do feel like they were thinking, oh, what if we just connected these things? Like, it's already connected with Junior, but that's not enough. We gotta make the Roach gang in here. Man, finding that out makes Dana's sudden appearance make a lot more sense. It really does. Like, they were truly just, like, making it up as they went. They were like, oh shit, Junior's in this. Okay, let's start working backwards. But then they totally should have put Heather in season 3. If you're gonna make things up to support your new show, why not go all the way? I agree. Exactly. I thought Crown Lake was going to be connected to the witch moms. That could have been interesting, especially because we know that the camp that the witches go to is just a summer thing, which makes me wonder if there's like a concentration of magic at that campsite. What was the name of that girl who died in the fire? The fire in Crown Lake. Lucy. Agreed. Trying to get the timeline right on some of this. Um, Jimmy. We get. Oh, that's. I haven't even included the vampire stuff yet because I don't. Not even sure where that falls on the timeline. Let's see. It was sometime before he reconnected with Nellie. Time loop. Wow. You know, one thing about Brad TV is they have a huge range of like genres. Damn, they don't have like any information about Ruby. Do they have any information about Red Ruby the show? Sheesh, boy. But somehow all managed to become hit. Yep. Or when it's somehow not straight, they handle it in the worst way possible. Red Ruby was another one that had a lot of potential, but I feel like somehow they would have fucked it up if that had kept going. Okay, let's look at our new and improved junior page. That already looks so much better with like more stuff. Alright. Thomas Jr. Chambers is a character in the Brad universe. He was a star basketball player for Attaway High back in 1963. He worked for his father's diner and started his own uh and then started his own cafe many years later called Junior's. Jr. was born in 1947 to Thomas Chambers and Frances Chambers, née Atkins. He was their first child, born shortly after his father's return from the Korean War. He lost his mother Frances in the Attaway Fire of 1953 when he was just 6 years old. In the 1960s, he attended Attaway High along with his younger sister Jo Chambers and briefly dated Kathy Fitzroy. He also played on the basketball team and worked at the old Attaway Diner with his father. While working a summer job at the Crown Lake Country Club in 1964, he met Dana Roth, whom he would eventually marry. He gave her a small glass bird as a token when they first started dating, which became one of her most prized possessions. His father, Thomas, passed away from grief after Randy Roach, the child he had briefly adopted from his treacherous girlfriend Debbie Collins, and her lover Jimmy Roach, née Henry Fitzroy, was kidnapped by them. Sometime in the 60s, he married Dana Roth, and in 1979 they had a daughter, Nellie Chambers. At some point, Junior got involved with the Roach Gang and became indebted to them. Some enforcers from the gang beat Dana to death while she was at Junior's alone, presumably meaning to target Junior himself. Junior was racked with guilt upon this from then on and became an alcoholic. The Roach Gang later paid for Nellie to attend Crown Lake Academy in 1994. When Nellie encountered problems at the school, she returned to her father and expressed her desire to return to Attaway High. Junior was willing to do this, despite threats from the Roach Gang, but after realizing that he would be in danger, Nellie opted to return to the school. Nellie left Crown Lake Academy in disgrace when a fire she was believed to have started resulted in the death of Lucy Quinn. Junior disapproved of the man she chose to marry, and the two fell out of love with each other and lost contact for years. This led to him becoming even more depressed and emotionally distant, fearing becoming close with anyone again, having lost all connections to his family. It appears he also fell out of contact with his sister Jo and Uncle Bobby Atkins. At some point while running juniors, he became victim to several attacks by local vampire teens Amber and Ian. It does not appear to have had any lasting effect, however. Nellie's husband Bruce later abandoned her and their son Joseph Chambers, leaving them homeless and living out of their car for a while before unexpectedly reconnecting with Junior during the holiday spectacular. That's I feel good about that. I feel like that is a much more fitting explanation for his life. I also changed his sexuality to unknown because it bothers me that we're just assuming everybody is straight. Well, let's see what we got over here with some of these character descriptions. Oh, you guys have been working. I love it. All right, so let's see what we've got. We've been at this for about 3 hours. We've bounced back and forth between the wiki and this, but what have we got so far? So we got Jo Chambers, a stubborn, tomboyish girl from Attaway who enjoys reading, building things, and driving people crazy with a refusal to conform to gender norms. She's always felt somewhat trapped in her small town with its conservative values and patriarchal expectations. She's also never been interested in boys like the other girls her age. Her mother named her after Jo March from Little Women, and she's always admired the free-spirited nature and lack of desire to be ladylike. Her mother died in a tragic fire in the town rubber factory, and her father was never the same afterward, so she mostly focused on running the family diner and emotionally neglecting her and her older brother Junior. Eventually she meets Kathy Fitzroy, a spoiled rich girl who never paid much attention to until seeing her briefly abandon her propriety to slap Lawrence DuPont when she caught him kissing her best friend Alice. This display of uncouth behavior embarrasses Kathy but amuses Jo, and the two become friends. Jo experiences feelings with Kathy that she never has with boys and begins to ask some big questions about herself with the guidance of the only adult who seems to understand her Uncle Bobby. A wealthy young girl living in Attaway, Kathy Fitzroy is a wealthy young girl living in Attaway who has always lived her life according to the constraints and expectations of her gender and social status. Her father is an important businessman who cares only for increasing the wealth and status of the Fitzroy name. Her mother is a socialite who relied on barbiturates and alcohol to function most days. Kathy was always felt like her family was hiding something, but it was all about appearances with them. She never stepped out of line or questioned things until the day she broke up with Lawrence DuPont, a rich boy her parents wanted her courting. This was also the first day she really talked to Joe Chambers, the spunky tomboy who never seemed to follow the rules. The Francis section is a little wordy because I used it to rewrite the whole. Well, I'm excited. Junior Chambers, a handsome athletic teenage boy living in Attaway with his father Thomas Sr. and his little sister Jo. He was close with his mother Frances, but ever since she passed away in the Attaway fire, he felt like he didn't have anyone to talk to openly about his feelings, especially since his father was so emotionally closed off. But when his uncle Bobby moved in to help with the family diner, he felt more at ease. It seemed he could talk to Bobby about anything, even the stuff he felt weird about. He had always been quite popular with the girls in school, and he liked them fine, but sometimes it felt like he had similar feelings for the boys in his class, which made him feel confused. He often felt torn between his father's expectation of manly behavior and the sensitive, empathetic nature of his mother. Thomas Chambers, a veteran of the Korean conflict, he returned from war injured and walked away with a limp. He suffered PTSD but often buried his feelings in his work at the Attaway Diner, the family business of his wife Frances. Eventually, not only does he lose Frances in the Attaway fire, he learns that she was unfaithful to him while he was off fighting, having reignited a fling with Frank Hurley. There is a chance Jo isn't even his biological daughter. Frances Atkins Chambers, the deceased mother of Jo and Junior Chambers, a kind-hearted and empathetic woman. In her youth, she would take any job she could get to help her family with their money troubles, as well as working as a servant for the prestigious Crown Lake Academy. She took many jobs around the neighborhood. She would come and meet a boy from the rich and renowned Hurley family, and she would continually meet the Hurley boy named Frank around Crown Lake, despite not having a very deep bond with Frank, and Frank treating her like a rebellious phase against his parents. Nice. This led to the two of them dancing at Crown Lake's ball, and Hurley's parents paid off the Atkins family to move away so that Frank and Frances could be separated. Nice way to tie in how the fuck they got from Crown Lake to Attaway. This was easy for the Atkins family, as shortly before, their son Bobby was seen holding hands with another boy. Nice, love it. This led to her parents trying to separate themselves from Bobby, but Frances always tried to reach out and understand her brother. Frances would come to meet a boy by the name of Thomas Chambers, who she would come to love through her years at Attaway. In order for the Atkins to come into a sense of normalcy after the incident with Bobby and the Hurley conflict, they pushed Frances and Thomas to marry each other. This led to a rushed marriage based on first impressions, which led to Thomas leaving Frances behind at Attaway when he was fighting in the Korean conflict. Upset at how her life had turned out and how the man she loved seemed to grow more and more distant from her, one day she met back up with her old flame Frank Hurley, who for once in her life was thinking about herself and not about the others she had an affair. Bleh. For once in her life, thinking about herself and not others, she had an affair with Frank. However, after news of her husband's injury and the gravity of what she did hits her, she breaks things off with Frank and supports her family 100%. Frank, however, would not stop trying to contact her despite Frances's continued denials. This led to Frank's wife, Jane Havoc, finding out about the affair and planning to kill Frances, leading to the Attaway fire. Frances left behind a diary that no one knows the location of. Ooh, love it. Robert Uncle Bobby Atkins, the uncle of Jo and Junior Chambers. Bobby is a bachelor who has come to help with the family diner that is owned by Jo and Junior's dad, Tommy. Bobby and Jo seem to have a better understanding relationship than Jo ever had with her father. This is because Bobby, being a gay man, understands Jo's non-conforming personality to gender roles, and the patriarchal expectations to some extent. He always tries to give advice to Jo and support her in whatever challenges, whether they be societal, academic, and or personal, she may come across. He also feels that Jo is the only one who he can confide in about his struggles with his non-accepting father and his struggles with his brother-in-law. Bobby also sees a little of his sister Frances in Jo, and wants to make sure he gives Jo the support and love Frances gave him when they were kids. Despite him having a deeper connection with Joe, he also talks to his nephew Junior and tries to help him not fall into the patriarchal expectations put on men and teach Junior about not falling into the bad traits that Tommy and his father learned and practiced. Both Joe and Junior come to Bobby about their feelings with other kids rather than their father. In Joe's case, she's not having feelings for boys like she's supposed to, but instead having feelings for girls, and in Junior's case, he's having feelings for both boys and girls and doesn't know what it means. Bobby encourages and gives advice to Joe, seeing as he has been through similar circumstances, and assures her that she should never feel like something is wrong with her. He also helps Junior try to figure out his bisexuality and make sure Junior never falls into patriarchal pitfalls. Ray Fitzroy is a small child. All right, let's go. The moment of truth. Henry Fitzroy. Let's see what we can do. Henry Fitzroy is the eldest child of the Fitzroy family. He was a clever, charismatic, and good at manipulating people into doing what he wants. To the Fitzroys, this was the perfect son they could have had, but nothing lasts forever. When he was a boy, he kidnapped his 1-year-old baby brother and locked him in a shed for 3 days alone. After this, his parents covered it up and sent him away to a boarding school. At some point, he came to meet Debbie, last name, a woman who's actually her name is Collins, I believe. I think that was confirmed. Debbie Collins, a woman who was just as manipulative and deranged as him. Somehow they fell in love and became obsessed with one another. Somehow also Henry became a mobster. Somehow also Henry became a monster, and he and Debbie devised a plan to overtake Attaway. I don't blame you at all. Like, that's honestly very good given the very limited information we've been given about this character. Alan Alvarez, an introvert and reserved child of and son of Lenny Alvarez, the man wrongly accused of causing the Attaway fire. Henry is going to need some heavy rework. Alan, in order to have a normal school life, used his mother's maiden name, Powell, in order not to get ostracized by the other kids. Alan, believing his dad innocent, is on a mission to find out the truth about the fire. However, his close connection to the fire leads him to meet Jo Chambers, a non-conforming girl who seems to act more boyish than even him. While Jo doesn't seem to take much interest in Alan, Alan has respect for Jo and her free-spirited nature. As Alan and Jo run into each other more and more and he finds out more about her, he tries to be more open and free himself, leading to revealing to Jo and Junior about his true name and his father. This makes Jo distance himself from Alan, from Alan, while Junior spends more time with Alan. Junior, who is also figuring himself out, wants to be a positive influence on Alan, and this leads to Alan having feelings for him. Alan figuring out that he has to invest interest in boys leads to Jo and him reconnecting through a shared experience. Nice! I like that. Y'all, we made some serious progress. This is like a functional rewrite of most of these characters. I'm very impressed. Yeah, I agree. Henry's gonna need heavy rework. We just need to completely dismantle Henry's character and try to start over again, because that's a mess. That's just a mess. I don't know how we map out his journey from that to the Roach thing. Honestly, if I had my way, I'd just cut that all together. Or maybe I would make his girlfriend a Roach or something like that, and he just like marries into the family. Something like that, because otherwise I have no idea what the fuck to do with Henry being the Roach guy. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. It's fucking crazy. Oh my god. Well, that was fun. That was I would just redline the Roach. Yeah, I would just cut that shit out entirely. No, cut that shit out entirely. Now, the next time that Brat TV has, like, an idea for, like, a series, they need to pitch it to us, and then we will rework the script. Give us the basic premise that you've got, and then we will take that script and fix it before you start, like, filming it and stuff. Like, next time you get any bright ideas, like, I swear, if you ever be like, hey, we should do a Charmer season 3, give it to us. Don't you dare start filming until you give us what you've got, what the ideas you've got, so that we can look at them and let you know if that's going to work or not. If you put no racism plot lines, no more cop het, no stupid bullshit, because if at this rate, y'all have ideas for Crown Lake Charmer season 3, talking about, actually, Zarya has a boyfriend now. None of that shit. Give it to us so we can fix it. Have a good night at Kid. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. But thank you. This was a lot of fun as a writing exercise. We should do this again. This was lots of fun. I believe that we can fix the Brat TV wiki and the Brat TV lore, and we can make a better channel for it. So contact us, Brat TV. We will be your new writer's room. Have a good night, everybody.